All right, welcome to the first episode of Real Estate on the Rocks. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that you decided to join us. Before I introduce our first guest, I just wanted to say thank you and that we're going to work on this and grow and figure this thing out as we go. But without further ado, this is Rick Vinyard with Precision Construction Group, a custom home builder here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I guess we'll just kind of dive right in and ask him a few questions. So how long have you been doing this? Well, let me stop you, actually. How did you get into construction or carpentry, and how was it introduced to you, and how did you get into the game, I guess?
Well, that's a good question. I was hitchhiking with the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
And whenever Jerry Garcia died 23 years ago in August, I didn't have anything to do. And I had called my mom and said, "Hey, I really don't know what to do." And she had mentioned that her friend had a son who was looking for carpenter's helpers, $7 an hour, which was big money. And so that's when I started. Went to the Mississippi Gulf Coast and just picked it up pretty quickly.
So before this, you had never done any type of construction other than just stuff around the house? Or?
Oh, Lincoln Logs.
Okay.
Legos. I mean, anything.
That's everybody's first introduction to construction.
Right.
Gotcha.
Anything I could get my hands on, I would build with.
Right. And so you have family members in your family that were into carpentry or construction, or?
Yes.
How far into it did they go professionally?
Well, before my father became a minister, a reverend in, I want to say it was the 40s. He was born in 1913. Before that, he was a home builder, which is pretty cool because I found an article about him,
And that was something you previously didn't know?
No, I didn't know.
That's cool.
And there's a newspaper article about his, how passionate he was. Talking about how he could build anything,
right?
Period. And I guess that's kind of where I may get it from. His father was a carpenter as well, and then on my mother's side, her father was a carpenter. So it's blood.
That's really cool. And one thing from just truth be told, I'm good friends with Rick, and I've learned from being around him just how passionate he is about construction and his work, that he gives out to his clients, that he's not going to cut corners. And so that's one thing that comes across, is how passionate and how much of a stickler you are. And I could see how, like you were saying, that you get your passion for it. Maybe that could come off as overly confident, but I think it comes off more as you know what you're doing and you know what kind of product the final product's going to be when you deliver it to your client. Is that something that you've just from day one had that, or did you have some, hiccups very early on where someone that was working under you or for you kind of cut corners and left you holding the bag? Or
it's just in my DNA. From day one as just a carpenter's helper. To me, it was always very simple,
right,
to make things perfect. And that was, I made that statement to, guys that I used to work with. It's very simple. I just want it perfect.
Right.
And then, they look at you kind of like you're crazy. And then they realize that you actually believe that.
Right.
But the most important, part about all of it is that as a builder, you have to recognize that you're shepherding a family, which in my case is always a family that I've grown to love and care about.
Right.
You're shepherding them throughout, a lot of information, and a lot of decisions, and your job is to further their interests. And I think that's where, you have luxury home builders and folks that, have, some pre-construction consulting, just from all of their years of experience. and then you have some of the more speculative kind of stuff, which not to say that those guys don't have experience, but that's not what we do.
Right.
So
you would classify yourself as a luxury home builder?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that your ultimate goal when you set out, or was it just kind of progressed to that point where it's like you like perfection, you like cutting edge things, and you like doing some of the more modern, I don't think your work's modern, I don't know if that's the right term, but is that just kind of how it progressed naturally, or did?
Yeah, it was a natural progression, and it was really, it was because of the caliber that I expected from everyone.
Right.
If you're getting ready to pour concrete and you've got a clod of dirt in the footing, and your guys see you out there, not afraid to, strap on tool bags and a shovel and take that clod of dirt out or whatever it is, jump in and grab onto the end of the concrete hose, and you're not just standing there.
Right.
You're in it. You're in it. Your heart's in it. You've run through the construction process
Right.
1,000 times in your brain just for that one day. And usually, from my experiences, that's where you develop a clientele, a sophisticated clientele, and they want someone who really,
Right.
turns over every stone.
That's one thing I noticed very early on, is that you seem to be more of a hands-on builder. Not to take away from any other builders out there,
Of course.
but I definitely see, whether it's through social media or just talking with you, that I feel like you're on the ground, on the job site, paying attention to how any of the contractors are working. Is that something that's being lost these days in a lot of the home building, just because there are so many subcontractors and I guess business in general? That do some contractors get spread too thin, or do they spread themselves thin? Or?
That potential is always there, because what you're dealing with is a group of subcontractors and suppliers that make commitments and then can break them. Sometimes one's maybe notorious for breaking them,
Right.
and sometimes if something happens with their family. The more my family developed, the more sensitive I was to that with respect to my subcontractors and suppliers, and if something happened with their family. But the idea, I don't know if you watch football, and I think there was a score this weekend, LSU Arkansas, where it was a run and play, and they were on the 10-yard line, okay, and in the red zone, and they're going to the running back gets the ball and he runs into a line,
Right.
and then the entire group of people move and just continuously move, like a yard, then 2 yards, and 3.
Right.
Then it's a touchdown. And the analogy is that's the goal, is that you just grab everybody and everything and you just try to move it forward, because you can't let things be too symbiotic anymore. Used
Right.
to, it was, you give this one person a week to do their job and there's
Right.
nobody else there. Well, nowadays, if you do that, you'll never get anything done.
Right.
So, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And I guess this could give you opportunity. What do you think sets you above, or sets Precision Construction Group above any other ones? And not taking away from other builders, but what is it that you feel that you guys are able to give your client that no one else can give?
Golly, I often times when I'm on the job, I think about that, but I think about it after something's occurred that made me feel that the service that Precision offers is very unique. And to us, every project is a piece of artwork. It's a forever home. Typically, that's the clientele that we're working for. But it's a piece of art, and that piece of art has to also accomplish a lot of tasks. Function, dependent on age and kids and cat person, dog person. I mean, it really, you could drill down, to the most finite point. But what sets us apart is that, we observe our clients sometimes over the course of years through developing a friendship, pre-construction consulting, steering them to the best spot for their needs and their budget, and then implementation. And then during the course of the project, I can say with confidence at this point in my career, everybody wants to know, well, what would you do?
Right.
Used to it was like just follow the plans and listen to my interior designer, and it's like, okay,
Right.
no problem. And now they really want to know what I think.
Right.
And oftentimes, and in some cases, we're at the point where they go, you just do what you think is best, and you can have this room or you can have this space, and
Right.
and wow us, and that's.
Do you like that, or
that's
does that
my
make you
favorite
nervous?
part.
That's your favorite
No, that's
part. Okay.
that's the best part about it. That's what sets us apart, because we're not doing so much that we can't focus on that piece of artwork
Right.
that is supposed to be functional for a specific client and their family's needs.
Gotcha. And so, I guess that kind of leads me to my next question a little bit, and you kind of answered it there. But, in this day and age, I'm taking an example as a chef, or everybody now has an opinion on how something should be prepared food-wise. They've watched Food Network. They think they know everything. So they come in. Do you have people that are, you kind of answered it there, but do people come in with more of a sense of this is how it needs to be decorated, this is how it needs to be designed, but don't necessarily have the background to follow it up with maybe the architecture or the design plans? Does that make sense? Are they asking?
Yeah.
Are there people that are asking for stuff that is not that it's impossible to do, but it's a little bit more difficult than they?
Not applicable.
Right.
What a lot of folks don't understand is that the things that they see on, whether it's YouTube or Pinterest or whatever it is, some of those things, those concepts could be implemented in a different region of the country that is not semi-subtropical like we have in southern Louisiana. Right. As is raining right now, So, as you start from day one working with those clients, you start to lay out those expectations indirectly of them, and there's always going to be a time in concept and development of the overall concept. There's always going to be a time that is opportune, that pops up, that's not forced and is organic, where you can start to convey the message of maybe that's not the best thing, this is going to be difficult to do, let's think about this a little bit more. So we want to make sure that the most important thing, that our clients understand the most important thing to us is that they're happy.
Right.
What we do want to also make sure is that after they live in their house for a year or 5 years or however many years, that they're having issues because of things that we try to do that are outside the norm for our region.
Right.
Different types of materials and stuff. But what I find is that the people that hire me really look to me, and once we have a chemistry test.
Right.
And that's the first time you meet, because people say, well, we want to get a bid from you.
Right.
And we're at the point in our career where we really don't competitively bid. And
clients reach out to you, and that's
yes,
that's how it works.
Yes,
90% of the time, or pretty much 100%. 100%.
Yeah, everything we do is negotiated, no spec homes. But once you've gone through that, what I call the chemistry test,
right? And
that's you look at your we have a certain formula which I won't disclose, but
right.
We so that way we can tell people this is what you're going to spend based on what you have conveyed to me through this chemistry test.
Right.
And really the chemistry test is finding out, hey, do we think we're going to be able to get along for 6 months of development and a year of construction, or 6
right.
months of construction, or whatever it is. That's really the most important part, and it's a two-way street. And for me, I found that that's the best method, because it's I do take what I do very personally, and it's just simply not business.
Right, right. And in general, I feel like that's something that is lost these days in all different industries. But definitely in home building, I could see where that would be a very personal situation where you're wanting to make sure and you're wanting to walk away from that project knowing that you gave that family your best and that there will never be, or not never, but
least amount.
Least amount. Right. There's always going to be something.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's always warranty items. I mean, that's just part of the business, right. And for some folks, it's, hey, this guy's been in business for, as a general contractor for 18 years.
Right.
And he's here.
Right.
His kids go to school here. He's born and raised here.
Right.
He's been able to travel across the country and learn other techniques and methods to build.
Right.
And implement those into kind of a hybrid Southern Louisiana version. Right. Mechanically, performance,
right,
and wise and aesthetically.
So what could you say? Have you in trend? I guess as far as trends go, what have you seen over the last 10 years? The biggest change as far as what clients' wants and needs are, or just, I mean, it could be anything from materials, or is it more of a professional style kitchen? Is that more popular versus a open floor plan, or have you noticed any type of particular trend as far as must-haves for people that are in the luxury home market?
I would say performance. And this is just growing with building science and technology. Nobody wants to be the guy on the front line, for lack of a better phrase, but they don't want to be the guinea pig. If
right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they don't want to be using something that's only been out a year.
So is that something they ask you? They're like, hey, have you done this before? And what's the results, or do they?
I usually try to set that up first. Like, I start explaining about my experience with different materials and how they behave, different systems and how they behave. I'd say the biggest trend that I've seen over the past just 10 years, to answer your question, is just utilization of antique materials coupled with performance. High performance. If they can do it from their smartphone, pull up their cameras, turn on their HVAC system, arm their security system, turn on their pool, all
right.
of those things. I'd say that's the biggest trend that I've seen is just using your smartphone,
right,
to do a lot of things at your house.
So more automation, or
Gotcha.
We're about to wrap this up, but do you have like a favorite project? You don't have to say anything in particular, but as far as a feature that you've built into a house, or something that you did that you felt was unique, and maybe something that you feel like maybe Precision Construction Group has been like kind of on the forefront of.
Just high performance homes, mechanically, keeping your humidity levels down very low and having ultra clean air. I personally, I love ICF, insulated concrete forms, your concrete core that's monolithically poured, and not to get into all the flex capacitor talk, but just high performance construction. Doesn't mean expensive, just high performance. That's what we love. We like thinking about the energy efficiency and the cubic volumes of air. It's funny because a lot of times people will ask me when they see a house that I'm building, and they'll say, well, how many beds and baths is it?
Right.
And I'll have to think. I'm like, I don't know. It's got this one and this one and this one. And you don't think about it because I don't think about it as a person selling a house.
Right.
I can tell you how many yards of concrete it's going to take, and
right.
and so my brain thinks in those volumes and quantities, and then of course the amenities, but those are always
right.
specific to each client.
Right. I do have one, I guess, not really a story, but I'll kind of lead you to this one. But so one of my, I guess, best memories of you showing me a house you've worked on is right up the street from your house, and you were talking about, and I'm gonna butcher this because I can't remember what it was, but it was some tie-ins with the joist, I think, in the ceiling for, I guess, for strength and strong winds and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that, or is it?
Yeah, that's just.
I just found this interesting. I find it might be something that may be useful for other, people building homes in Louisiana. That when we do have hurricane strength winds, so I just thought it would be something useful for the viewers out there.
Yeah, that's what you're referring to specifically. Is blocking of the strong back to the joist, and that occurs in conventional stick framing of the roof and ceiling or joist system. You have different roof construction methods that can be prefabricated in trusses, and that's not applicable. But the whole point of it, and why I like it, one, it's stronger. Two, it's safer for the people that are walking up there, and that's 10 years from now when the moisture is out of the materials and these things have expanded and contracted, and now the nails are loose and the homeowner goes to step on it and the joist rolls over and they fall through the ceiling. That happens, especially a lot in old buildings. If you've ever been in an old attic and you go grab a brace, it starts to shake and you're like, oh, I can't hold onto that. So, just kind of having everything put together as a unit. But most importantly, you got these small pieces of material that are left over on a job, and they can either be recycled, they could be thrown away, or they can go into the house.
Right. And I guess that was kind of where I was getting to. Is that's one thing that stood out to me, is that you were making use of, is dead wood? Is that the correct term, or is that not?
No, it's not. Dead wood is a field term.
Okay.
And basically it's referring to a nailer for sheetrock at the ceiling level on top of a wall or on the face of a wall. Right. But it's but no, your point is still right there. It's don't throw it in the dumpster whenever you can use it. So what we always say is if it's from here to here, you can toss it. If it's from here to here, you keep it.
Right.
And we always find somewhere that we can put it.
Right.
It might even be a workbench for the owner whenever we're finishing the job. You never know.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's about it. Is there anything you'd like to say about your company or anything else in closing? But I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, man.
Yeah.
It was great.
Appreciate being our guinea pig for this first episode, and we might have to circle back to you when I get a little better at it. So.
Well, I think you did a great job, brother.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
man.